I'm Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress here on Maryland's Eastern Shore. One of the biggest concerns and issues that we have is our traffic, our education, our health care, and our civil rights that are being taken away by our representative that is currently in office, and I seek to change that as an LGBT candidate.
Well, good evening, everybody. I am Mia Mason. I am here as a congressional candidate with everybody here in the United States of America going through this awful pandemic, COVID-19, whatever we actually want to call it. But it's actually something that we are going through together. Tonight, I have a wonderful guest. I'm going to screw this name up. Stella, I'm not even going to try to say the last name. But we have a special announcement for this coming up week with our coalition, No Dim Left Behind. That is Brooklyn Dad. So if you're big on Twitter, you can definitely follow us and get right into that, because that will be this Thursday night at 8 p.m. Now, let's go ahead and bring our host in and meet her.
There was no equality.
Here she is.
Hi. It is good to be here, and I want to thank you for inviting me in, and happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody who is celebrating.
I agree.
I'm a resident here in Salisbury, and the past few years I've become a political activist, which stemmed out of my becoming first an environmental activist. And the reason that happened, believe it or not, I am one of those unique folks who get to say that my father and his best friend were saved by dolphins during World War II.
Whoa. See, I've always known that we've used dolphins in the military for, sniffing out bombs and, using them for hurricane relief. I mean, they're amazing animals. So, yeah. Anything else super cool about you?
Gosh, I'm thinking that's actually it. Not many folks can say that.
Oh my gosh.
Were it for the grace of this pod of dolphins, here am I. I am one of the people who is a coordinator for a group called Media Ontology. And it's Media Ontology Ocean Defenders. And for those who are not familiar with what Taji is, it's Taiji. It is the place in Japan where dolphins are captured and killed.
No.
And they're captured for the marine park industry and the swim with programs, the ones that are pretty enough, usually the younger female dolphins. The rest are killed.
Wow.
The rest are killed because they represent competition to the Japanese fishermen.
See, I lived in Japan. I lived in Japan for nearly almost 4 years. I was there from 2001 to 2004.
It started in the 1960s.
Wow.
And it got very widely exposed by a film called The Cove, which won the Academy Award for Best Documentary.
Okay.
And don't feel bad, because a lot of the Japanese people do not know what's going on. So some of the most effective people we have are based in Japan. So instead of the normal thing...
I think some of the big things that they do is it's because it's funded by the government. They do it for scientific research, right?
That is the excuse for the whaling.
Oh.
The primary move, there really is. The whaling industry runs at a deficit.
Okay.
It is primarily funded by the government. Iceland did stop whaling this year because the market for whale meat dried up in Japan and they were dealing with COVID. So there is that. But in terms of, like I said, you see a lot of, unfortunately, racism in animal activism because of this, with people who do not know that most of the people in Japan do not know, and we have very effective activists on the ground. My group is associated with one. I do not give his name out because he's under threat there. So we kind of battle battle against that, but instead of the traditional thing where you see people having protests at embassies and things like that, that honestly doesn't do any good. It plays into the hands of the government. We do things like have events at media locations, hence we use the name media ontology to bring attention to things.
Okay.
And we also work with political activism. And one of my things is I like to think strategically. If you do not change the people who are making the decisions, none of the changes that you want are going to take place in a lot of cases. Especially the changes that we need to see now that are there to benefit the planet, the other inhabitants on it who cannot have a voice because they cannot communicate the way that we are.
I agree.
So that is the essence of how I've moved into looking at things politically, as well as I used to be one of those people standing in front of the embassy before I realized this is not doing any good.
I understand, and we need that change, especially here in Maryland. And I know you have a lot of questions for me, so let's dive right into those.
All right. If you're ready, go ahead. We'll get started here. Are there any environmental committees that you would choose to be on?
Oh, well, there's a lot, but I can only think of maybe one or two if selected to them. I'd probably look at maybe energy and commerce. I've worked in a powerhouse before. If you've ever wanted to know how sugar's made in Baltimore, you can just look at the big neon sign there. They need their own power to make that. I have worked there. Natural resources is a big thing when it comes to anything around this entire blue little globe that we call the Earth. Protecting that land, the data, maybe something that Representative Harris is still on, the Agricultural Committee, and of course any future development through science, space, and technology for upcoming ventures into natural resources, agriculture, and of course that energy and commerce in our futures that we need here in Maryland to make things a lot safer for us as we get new technologies.
And I think few people don't associate with just how much power that Commerce Committee has in dealing with environmental issues.
Yeah.
It is one of the most significant in the government, so love to see somebody who understands that in there. Then just moving on, would you like to encourage the Fed in terms of finance to allow low interest loans and provide tax credits and deductions for people who want to do things like start ecotourism?
Well, like underwater hotels, is that what you're talking about? Or
well, I mean things like where they would do canoes by sailboat, where they would do where they would do tours by canoe and do tours by sailboat. Have facilities that would have a zero carbon footprint in terms of the hotels and things like that.
I would have to make a lot of new friends to make that happen. I think the Budget and Ways and Means Committee would be a great place for me to start with that. Not to rub shoulders or knock heads or cut heads off, but basically if they got a sailboat or a small business, I think that would be some place to start with them before we go knocking down doors at the Treasury. QE4, we're printing $21 trillion in money right now that's going to help bail out businesses, but it's not going to small businesses. And we need to reverse that trend by getting us into Congress and into the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an idealist, but I'm also a realist. You've got to marry the two to actually get anything accomplished. So you're absolutely right. And in terms of internally off the coast and things like that, where would you stand on allowing private roadside zoos that house exotic animals, sometimes dangerous animals, and often they're kept in climates where it's not native to them?
I've seen a lot of roadside pet farms. There's a couple on Route 50. I've seen some over in Frederick. I've I visited across the country, like in Texas, Oklahoma, Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, where some animals have free range. They're dependent on their species, and they're not a dangerous animal at all to the public. Even our public zoos have exotic, dangerous animals, but normally they find a way to return them back to their proper environment. I think this is why we have private owners to, help maintain and afford them, rehabilitate them, and even we have nonprofit organizations to help our public zoos and shelters who receive them to basically make sure that they go back to where they belong. They shouldn't be on display. That's a great question. I hope that gives you an answer. I mean, we're here to fight against bears.
I take a little bit of a different stance with some of the people who are radically, oh my God, they must be in the wild, because eventually we have destroyed so much of the wild that the only hope we may have is to have sanctuaries. But, I think, I believe what you're saying. These guys, like the one in Texas who had a tiger in a cage until it died at a gas station.
Yeah, that's not good at all. That's definitely not appropriate. So let's tell people what we're fighting for. Let's take a break, and we'll get right back into these questions, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
First, he came after our immigrants. He came after our national origin. He came after our color. He came after our LGBT community. And then he came after me. And that's where the mistake happened. Don't Ask, Don't Tell ended without including transgendered soldiers. Yep, the Obama administration failed transgender soldiers. It didn't include me until later on. That's when I decided that I needed to come home to Virginia. But I couldn't come home. There was no equality at home. I came home to Maryland and DC, where there was equality. That wasn't true either. I got kicked out. I had to fight. I got on NBC News, fought against that administration, got back in, and then it was like deja vu. July 26th, first thing in the morning, Donald J. Trump said, "We're doing you a great favor. We're kicking you out. We deserve to serve." The men and women deserve diversity in this armed forces.
And that's why we deserve to serve, and we deserve to serve in your community as well. So when you come to any place here in the United States or in Maryland, just make sure that you are representative. That is another reason we're running. So let's turn this back over to Stella.
All right, well, glad to be back. And moving on again, we are seeing a lot of things going on with our food supply chain right now. So one of the things that occurred to me is, should we be demanding not only country of origin labeling, but also harvest method labeling, which would account for things like sustainability and also that fair labor practices are going on behind the scenes, and maybe establish a way of verifying that also.
That's a big question there. Country of origin is a great place to start, especially here in the United States. Even here in Maryland, we have an initiative to basically put a label on our own food grown in Maryland. Definitely want to be able to see that so that we're proud of what we produce, especially here locally. And then take that to lead to an example for the USDA and the FDA to make a standard for all countries. Instead of using the standard UPC coding that we define all countries on, so that we know exactly where our products come from, so that when you see it on the shelves, you can also see the country of origin that it came from. That will help identify where it is. Oversight would definitely be something beneficial for the corporations to basically know where their fair label practices are. That is something very fundamental for the DOJ, and I know that they do not mess around, but that is why we have Whistleblower Protection Act. That is why we have self-reporting procedures and ICE forms everywhere, so that they can make a complaint and their own HR departments to have a formal chain of command to make a process known, to have a reporting system in place for any labor issues that are a problem. And this is why we fully support unions as well, because then you know exactly what you're getting paid for the work you're doing, the time you're getting paid, when you're allowed to take a break, and how often you're coming to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be just great to move in on that and have a Department of Justice that has a restored sense of honor, where we can move into that type of enforcement and awareness. And then kind of staying with the food thing, should we form a Pacific and Atlantic partnership that would limit the catch capacity of these massive super trawlers? Some of them can take in up to 7,900 tons of fish at a time. And then what happens to lead into plastic pollution is about 80% of the plastic pollution by weight in the ocean are what they call ghost nets that have broken or been discarded because they're no longer usable, that then proceed to drift around the ocean. So there's accountability for that, but the primary thing I'm thinking about, or was thinking about with the question, is limiting that catch, because eventually there's not going to be anything left. So it's working against our own interests, and maybe some sort of alignment of those goals between nations would be a good way to make this a sustainable situation.
I can't speak for a lot of companies and what they're currently financially going through. They're going through a big difficulty right now. I believe that is happening even if I don't need to speak about it. Therefore, if I'm elected, we can propose limits on the future trawlers that are out there or resold, and then issue licenses for the catch per year. When you talk about the plastic and the waste and everything out there, that is something that, we have to make sure that when they have an inventory, that is part of the ship's manifest. And that is something that is also done by the DOJ, the Coast Guard, MARPOL, I think it is. Those people take care of all of that, along with NOAA, that's what it was, to make sure that what's on that ship stays on that ship and doesn't go overboard. And what comes back on board is, suitable to bring back on land, especially when it has to be a legal catch.
Gonna hop over to something because it was related to that and go back to where we were. And so what can we provide incentives to, say, chemical tech companies and universities to develop more happily biodegradable plastics, or plastic mimicking substances like can be made from soy, so that they break down into something that is not anywhere near as a deficit to the planet and ourselves ultimately.
I think that's an amazing process. I've seen some YouTube stuff on this, especially coming through the last 18 months. It is still in a development process. Some are actually viable products. It's about changing companies, habits and changing the costs of how they do business and give them an economical reason to put their product in something that is sellable to our consumers and make sure that it is there with a shelf life, to make sure that if we put a regulation on it, that we have a compliance state as well. If it's 2050, 2040, or even as late as the 22nd century, we have a sustainable path forward for something that's biodegradable, edible, or something that, provides us nutrients without having to then put in a trash can or then be recyclable through a harmful, harsh chemical means of being recycled.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. And kind of hopping back to where I've been before, should we place a ban on the body parts of endangered species or species that are not endangered, that are endangered in the wild, but then are bred specifically to be hunted?
Hell yeah. They're endangered for a reason. We keep losing species every day. We saw the news earlier this week about an invasive species in the state of Washington. What's it called? A murder hornet?
Yeah.
People, please. We had enough issues all the way back in the early 20th century with rats coming on board and snakes. Things happen. Look at Australia. Look at what happened. We have endangered species for a reason. We shouldn't be hunting them, etc. We should be repopulating them. And as you talked about earlier with your other questions about, the exotic animals and dangerous things, those same nonprofit shelters and private zoos and stuff, they do great work to, keep other animals and breed them as well.
And just kind of going back to local concerns, what would you like to see parts of the Chesapeake Bay set aside as sanctuaries where there are unique chains of life?
Well, yeah. Even on the other side, in the actual ocean, we need to be able to have clean water. It is something vital. You look outside right now, we kind of have clean air.
Yeah.
It makes a difference when there's not that much pollution. Trump's touting about how he's happy about all these boaters and truckers out there. And look, the fish are happy, the planes aren't in the air and all this other stuff. It's nice out there for a reason. COVID must be doing something great for us. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing, but we must be able to progress from this and make things a lot better through our businesses and bring back the economy. But we have to think and make this smarter and do things more successfully and set aside things, like you said, sanctuaries, so that our oysters, our seafarers can do things, our little sharks that are out there, the tiger sharks, our bass, any type of animals and wildlife out there. And then on the other side, set up actual, the windmill project got canceled again and got pushed back. They said it was a national security issue. It's not. It could have been, also used for many other things. It could have, helped stop beach erosion, which, costs millions of dollars per year to bring back the beach, even down in Virginia. It
Some of
makes
the areas
sense.
where they've cropped up, the turbines themselves have become miniature reefs. They have become positive parts of the ecosystem, and they have become positive things for the environment and the economy, because some of the eco tours and some of the tourist boats actually go out to them because people want to see them up close.
And that's a good reason to be on the Natural Resources Committee and the Energy Committee.
And in terms of that leads into the other thing that I was going to ask you, with the world currently facing a glut of oil, some people are going to argue that it's too soon to worry about transitioning to renewable energy. And so what counter arguments can we offer that it is time to move forward, despite the fact we're seeing these tankers sit there?
Well, I'm not going to get into all the big. I got a tweet coming out late tonight about. I'll just say it. Jeez, you're prying me here. People are abandoning ship. They're leaving their freight trucks. They're leaving their jobs because their employers can't pay them. It's a bad market out there. Coast Guard's picking them up, etc. It's just one of those things that is not good. When a captain leaves a ship, when a truck driver leaves his business, it's not good for our economy. So when you ask about the glut for oil and the transitioning to renewable energy, I think of a bridge like natural gas and how we've had all these new power plants come in as a gap to lead into 2035, 2025 to get us that ease of transition into solar and wind. And as this new technology of solid state batteries comes in so that we can have higher capacity of battery storage, it makes sense to, lower the cost of this incentive of new technologies for renewable technologies. And it took time, and it's happening. And we'll continue to see the prices for renewable technologies come down. And it will happen. And then we won't be using fossil fuels.
Yeah, we're just on nuclear as a transitional source.
Nuclear? Well, there's even better nuclear. It's called thorium. It took me even a little bit of time to figure out exactly what it was, but it was better than uranium. It's a heavier metal, a little bit cleaner. I won't get into all the techno babble about it, but it is one of those things. If you really want to dig into it, it's worth a hoot and a listen.
Then I've learned something tonight, and that is exciting to find out about. And it's been wonderful to get your perspective from me and your input here with that.
Well, when you're deployed overseas, you have a lot to watch and a lot to learn. When you're not getting attacked, and you're going between training manuals, training people, and trying to make sure you bring back everybody else home alive. So let's take a break, have a drink, and then we'll be right back, okay?
Thank you.
You too. Bye.
I'm Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress here on Maryland's Eastern Shore. One of the biggest concerns and issues that we have is our traffic, our education, our health care, and our civil rights that are being taken away by our representative that is currently in office, and I seek to change that as an LGBT candidate.
Well, welcome back, everybody. A lot of things have been going through this entire evening. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around with us. It's been a long journey tonight. So, Stella, what are your thoughts going through after tonight? What could we do differently to make this better the next time?
Well, I think my community answer is this. More activism and more engagement with the people that did not show up last time. People talk about that 65 million or 66 million or so that voted for Hillary and the 63 that got their way because of the Electoral College, but 71 million people sat it out. And I'm thinking this time they are going to be a little bit more motivated, because it's not just a political difference right now. Their lives are under threat.
I agree. And weren't most of those Bernie supporters? What can we honestly say to them?
I think right now we need to look at it as humans instead of looking into the divisions. Maybe some of the Bernie supporters sat out, but also people sometimes just sit out because, and you know this better than I do, because they're tired of politics and nothing's going to change. Right now, if something's going to change, if what goes on now goes on for 4 more years, it is going to mean people's lives. It is already meaning people's lives. We have a congressman who was running around with a bunch of people who had no masks on, even though I noticed he kept a big difference, or a big
radius around him.
Perimeter around himself. This is a man who is a doctor, who is an anesthesiologist, who intubates people to do anesthesiology. So I found the level of hypocrisy going on, particularly here, just so galling. And we need to engender a respect for science again, because I'm just seeing some terrifying, crazy stuff. You know, on the level of, you could almost seem to tell these folks you can breathe through a plastic bag and it'll be fine, and they would try it. So,
there are those little clip arts of people at Walmart with the little bag over their head, and you have to laugh and chuckle at them. So,
well, I saw the one thing where it was a bunch of fish outside the aquarium saying, "You're not going to force us back in there." So that's been my favorite so far.
Awesome,
and
awesome.
Community-wise, that would be my primary thing. Personally, and I know it's not a popular thing in this area, but to be honest, I maintain a plant-based diet.
Good.
And I think that's something a lot more of us are even looking at now.
Yeah.
Problems in the food chain. I feel for the people who know who've been impacted, but to isolate myself, I really haven't. You know?
I know. I gave a grocery store report today that you might as well just buy the whole cow if you're gonna, go to the grocery store.
Yeah, I mean, food is a sensation experience. In terms of nutrition, protein is all around us. Protein can be obtained by any number of sources. It is not unique in terms of animal bodies. It is unique in terms of the structure and the sensation that we've become accustomed to consuming in those animal bodies. So, that's my personal situation. I will continue to work with media ontology and the dolphin issue in any way that I can. And I will be there to support candidates like you who are going to be moving us toward a better place, whether that's national or on a local level. And I appreciate you giving me this forum to get this out there and to let people know that there are folks in this area who want these changes.
That's amazing. So how can people get a hold of you, Stella?
On Twitter, my primary account is 24 Carly S119. That's 24 CARLYS 119. And then the Maryland First, the MD 1ST district account that I've been using for this area.
Okay.
And on Facebook, I just encourage you to just search Media Ontology Ocean Defenders.
Okay.
And my group will be there as well.
Great. Well, thank you for being with us tonight, and you stay safe out there, okay?
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye. And we'll be right back.
I'm Ian Mason. I'm running for Congress. Our voters are at the helm in 2020 because our education has failed us. Our infrastructure has failed us. With your driving force, we can fix that, especially in our healthcare, because your vote actually matters and you have the choice in 2020. I'm Ian Mason, and I approve this message.
Well, good evening, everybody. It has been an amazing night tonight. We had an amazing time just answering all 10 questions. I mean, like, it must have been like 15 total. But, you know, we're going to be back at this Thursday evening with our coalition, No Dim Left Behind. We're going to have a special host, big social media pop star online, you know, Brooklyn Dad is his name. Can't say enough about him, but he basically grew his own audience based on, you know, being a candid guy. It makes a lot of sense to just grow an audience of being who you are. That's what I'm doing. That's why I am who I am. When I came out in 2014, I was still kind of in hiding, and I said, how am I going to, you know, get to know others and do this and do that? Well, by 2016, I needed to make a difference for others, and I fought ferociously to do that and got myself back into the military, helped others. And then a year later, it was like, oh no, what I went through, what I lost, my home, my car, my job, everything. Tens of thousands of others and families are going to go through the same thing I just went through. I need to warn people. I need to tell them exactly what happened. And I got on NBC News. I told them what was going on and what I feared, and they listened. And we told them, you know, what this president was doing was wrong. And we moved forward from there, and we got everybody throughout the entire country engaged. Every nonprofit stepped up to the plate and said, we're taking on this president, no matter what they're doing. And because they're part of this religious freedom belief, we know it's wrong. No matter if you're LGBT or not, if you're trying to have a job, and you are of a different religion of that person, you could be fired. If you're a man, woman, child, whatever, color, nation, color, creed, sex, it didn't matter. From day one of this administration, he attacked immigrants,
the Obama administration,
nation of origin,
transgender soldiers,
and went forward.
Include me until later on.
We're trying to change that.
That's when
I
decided that
to remove
I needed to come
representatives like Harris from the Freedom Caucus.
But I couldn't come home.
There
makes
was
no equality
at home. When you vote.
I came home
it
to
makes
Maryland
a change.
in DC,
Our
where there
map
was equality.
After the census is changing. It will matter.
That wasn't true either.
So, be part of our coalition.
I got kicked out.
Every red district across the entire country.
I got on NBC
Help
News.
Make our country blue in this blue wave.
Got
because
back in,
your rural
it was
area,
like deja vu.
your land
July
is your legacy. It is your vote that will make that difference for us.
Donald J. Trump
so, make sure that you wear your mask, wear your gloves, all that fun, fancy stuff that you hate, that I see you tear off as soon as you leave the grocery store. Make sure it matters, because when you come out there and you see me, I'm wearing it 24/7 when I'm out there shopping. I'm also going door to door when those restrictions ease up. And we're going to be looking for you to volunteer if we win the primary. We also want to make sure that when you actually vote, you know, you can actually vote for us. You can make a donation here. It's super easy. Last little ask. So join us this Thursday at 8 p.m. We're going to have Brooklyn Dad. Have a great night. We'll talk to you then.
Yep.
Peace out.
The Obama
Bye.
administration failed transgender soldiers. Didn't it?
I'm Ian Mason. I'm running for Congress. Our voters are at the helm in 2020 because our education has failed us. Our infrastructure has failed us. If you're driving force, we can fix that, especially in our healthcare, because your vote actually matters and you have the choice in 2020. I'm Ian Mason, and I approve this message.